skip it up and that up. Even though the Nintendo Switch is selling well and the install base is growing by the day, I think third-party developers, due to it being a unique device that isn't a straightforward console, when they port games over or bring games to the Switch, they're not fully on board because they want to test the waters first to see what kind of games are going to sell. Because a console could be very popular, but the demographic that owns the console may not be interested in the software that you're bringing to the Nintendo Switch. So developers are being very shy about what kind of games they bring over because they want to see what's going to make them money before they put the development dollars in to making games for the console. Now, an example of this is Square Enix's Octopath Traveler for the Nintendo Switch. I remember them showing a trailer of this when the Nintendo Switch was first revealed. And I'm not really an RPG guy, so it didn't do anything for me, but it looked interesting. But I thought it was just going to be like a budget downloadable title that, it's kind of like a throwback, an interesting throwback with some modern graphics mixed in with some old school graphics to like a 16-bit RPG. And I didn't really think too much of it. I thought it was just going to be on the Nintendo eShop and people are going to download it and that would be that. But man, oh man, was I wrong. The game is selling like crazy because reviews for Octopath Traveler have been very, very positive. People love the game.
Octopath Traveler is a JRPG dream come true.
Hell, admittedly, I even bought a digital copy of the game on the eShop. Don't know how much of it I'm going to play because, like I said, I'm not an RPG guy. But when I see gameplay of it, it does interest me, which is shocking because usually ever since I've been a kid I could give zero craps about RPGs, but maybe this will be what makes me an RPG guy, who knows. Well, beyond all that, even Square Enix and Nintendo didn't see the demand for Octopath Traveler coming because it's sold out everywhere, and on Amazon, if you try to get a copy physically anyway, you're going to have a 1 to 2 month waiting period. Don't believe me? Here's a screenshot from Amazon that comes from Gear Nuke. Usually ships in 1 to 2 months. So if you really need to have a physical copy of the game, guess what? You're going to be waiting a while. Or hopefully you get lucky, maybe you just trip and walk into a GameStop and they have 1 copy left. As a matter of fact, Square Enix apologized for Octopath Traveler being sold out everywhere, and they suggested that you buy the game digitally, which I know that's not going to be an option for a lot of people because, look, I have been very pro-digital distribution on the Switch. That's how I get most of my games, if not all of them. But with a game like Octopath Traveler, I can empathize and understand why a lot of people who are into those kind of games would want a physical copy. You want the full experience. You want the collector's edition. It's part of what makes the game special to you. So I totally relate to people saying, nope, I am not buying the game digitally. I want a physical copy. I understand. Now, this video isn't going to be me ranting about how digital distribution is the future. Once again, I have beaten that horse beyond to death. Okay, we all know that it is. When it becomes the main way we purchase and play games, that's up for debate, but eventually digital distribution will become the future. But again, that's not the main topic of this video. The main topic of this video is that we're seeing developers basically testing the waters of the Nintendo Switch and what kind of games will sell and what kind of games won't. And I don't think Square Enix thought that Octopath Traveler was going to sell the way it did, even if it was critically acclaimed. And I think we're seeing that too with Bethesda and other third-party developers as they're bringing games to the Switch like Wolfenstein 2, like Doom, like Skyrim, so on and so forth. You see, like I said, Rockstar Games bringing over LA Noire, which, if that's the game, like I said before, they're using to test the waters on the Switch, like seriously. But you get my point. You have Capcom bringing over Resident Evil Revelations 1 and 2, so on and so forth. The list goes on and on, because they want to see if there's a market out there. And I think that Square Enix was doing this with Octopath Traveler. They wanted to be like, look, before we go all in on the Switch, even if the system's selling well, it doesn't mean our games are going to sell well on the Switch. Let's see what happens with Octopath Traveler. I think the same thing, like I said, with Bethesda. Let's see what happens with Wolfenstein 2, which unfortunately I don't think that game's lighting the world on fire on the Switch, even though I've been enjoying it surprisingly more than I thought I was going to. But that's the point that we are now with the Switch. And I think we're going to continue to see that for probably about another year, where third-party developers are going to bring over either slightly older games or lower budget games and see how they perform. Not saying that even though it's kind of a 16-bit looking RPG, that the Octopath Traveler was a low budget game, but I'm sure it wasn't the same amount of money to develop as a full AAA game like a Tomb Raider title. So this is the point that we're at right now. You also have to realize too that due to the Switch not being as powerful as its competitors, the PS4 and Xbox One, that's why we're seeing Panic Button porting over games for Bethesda and other companies, because the games basically have to be completely reworked to work on the Nintendo Switch. I understand they're using the same graphics technology as they use in their NVIDIA uses in their other graphics cards, but it's still a mobile chipset that isn't the same as its competitors. So developers have to work from the ground up to make sure the games work properly, run properly, and they have to be cut down because the Switch doesn't have the graphics prowess of its competitors. So it's not just a straightforward process, is my point, to bring games over to the Nintendo Switch. And before developers put the extra dollars in to bring games over, they want to see if they can make money. And for Square Enix, this is probably a really good sign for them. And if Octopath Traveler does really good numbers, which I think it is, I think we're going to see a lot of other games from Square Enix come to the Switch. So it's a good sign, but that's why I think they didn't have a lot of copies of Octopath Traveler, because they didn't expect it to sell the way it is. So the bottom line is, just be prepared for a while for developers to test the waters with the Switch to see if they'll make money on the system before they straight up support it. So it is going to be a waiting game, probably for about another year before we see an influx of AAA support. We're seeing a good amount now, but hopefully it'll get even better. This is Richard, Review Tech USA, signing out. Have a good one.